When it comes to DC movies, the fights are not only on screen. Every new actor in a cape sparks a war of opinions, and while some are welcomed like royalty, others are torn apart before the opening scene. Today, we'll talk about those who won the hearts of millions and the ones who found themselves on the wrong side of fandom history. Let's start with the good list, shall we? Henry Cavill. Among all the names tied to DC's cinematic run, none feels more deeply missed than Henry Cavill. He looked the part, no doubt about that, but he also acted the part in a way that stuck. When he exited the role, the disappointment echoed far and wide, with fans launching endless campaigns hoping to bring him back. Cavill became more than a casting choice. He became a symbol of what could have been. Gal Gadot. Few roles come with more expectations than Wonder Woman, and Gal Gadot had critics before she ever stepped on set. But once the film hit theaters, the tone shifted quickly. She captured something special, mixing gentleness with fierce determination. Her portrayal wasn't just about fighting bad guys. It was about fighting for something bigger, with a kind of hope that felt rare in the darker corners of the DC world. She carried herself with a natural elegance that never felt forced. Whether she was standing in a war zone or sharing quiet moments with her co-stars, she made Diana Prince both mythical and completely relatable. Her first solo film did more than sell tickets. It reshaped what superhero films could feel like when the lead was more than just muscle and one-liners. Margot Robbie. Taking on a fan favorite like Harley Quinn is always risky, especially when that character is so chaotic by nature. Margot Robbie not only managed the chaos, she made it look like art. Her first appearance in Suicide Squad may have been surrounded by a messy movie, but her performance was the one thing just about everyone agreed on. What made her stand out wasn't just the wild energy or sharp wit, it was how she brought out the sadness behind the madness. She didn't play Harley as a cartoon. She made her feel like someone who had lived through pain and still found ways to laugh. Each new version of the character she played had something fresh to offer, but always with that same unpredictable spark. She took a role that could have been forgotten and turned it into a defining part of the franchise. John Cena. Not many people saw Peacemaker coming, or at least not as a serious character, and not as someone who'd end up being one of the most complex in the entire lineup. But John Cena surprised everyone with a performance that was unexpectedly layered. He brought more than just muscle, punchlines, and over-the-top action. Underneath the loud voice and flashy suit, there was this strange blend of guilt, loneliness, and misplaced idealism that added a whole new layer to the character. What helped Cena stand out was how fully he leaned into the contradictions built into Peacemaker's personality. He was selfish but fiercely loyal, clueless but weirdly sharp in ways that mattered. Through both the movie and his later solo TV show, Cena found ways to build a character who was easy to laugh at but even easier to root for. His fan support grew fast and strong, and not just because of the jokes, though the jokes helped make him unforgettable. Ben Affleck. Ben Affleck as Batman started as a meme. The reaction was instant and intense, with many fans certain he was wrong for the part before filming even began. But over time, opinions changed. His Batman turned out to be one of the most brooding, complex versions ever put on screen. He brought a worn-out anger to Bruce Wayne, someone who had seen too much and lost even more. His performance wasn't about charm or clever lines. It was about showing what years of pain and guilt can do to someone. That emotional depth gave his Batman an edge that hadn't been explored in earlier versions. Even fans who were originally skeptical began to appreciate how layered his take was. Once the Snyder Cut gave him more room to breathe, support for Affleck only grew stronger. He may have arrived under a cloud of doubt, but he left with a lot of people wishing he had stayed longer. Viola Davis. There are a few roles where someone walks into a scene without powers and still commands total fear. Viola Davis pulled that off. Her version of Amanda Waller didn't need to lift a finger. Her authority came from the way she spoke, the choices she made, and the chilling calm with which she made them. She was never the loudest voice in the room, but always the one that mattered most. Her character was complicated. often walking the line between doing what's necessary and doing what's cruel. That moral ambiguity made her fascinating to watch. And while fans may not have loved Waller as a person, they definitely loved watching Viola Davis play her. Every time she showed up, you knew something big or dangerous was about to happen. Now, while some actors built loyal fan bases and made characters that fans still talk about with affection, not every story went that way. The DCEU also had its fair share of casting choices that fell flat, sometimes due to off-screen issues, other times because the performances simply didn't land. These roles stirred up plenty of online firestorms, and not always in a good way. The shift from celebration to criticism was often fast, and in some cases, pretty brutal. Ezra Miller. Ezra Miller started as a bold choice for the role of Barry Allen. His version of the Flash had this jittery, anxious charm that was either refreshing or distracting, depending on who you asked. He wasn't the classic comic book version, but he brought something different that clicked with some parts of the audience, at least at first. Things took a turn, though. Off-screen incidents began piling up, from troubling videos to serious legal issues, and soon the conversation around Miller stopped being about the movies entirely. For a while, it seemed like the studio was stuck, trying to balance a major film release with a very real public image problem. What started as a debate over a performance became a much bigger issue, one that left fans divided and exhausted. And so, the Flash movie that once was full of hype arrived under a cloud, and it never quite shook that weight off. Jared Leto. It's never easy stepping into the role of the Joker, but Jared Leto's version sparked instant backlash and never recovered. From the strange costume choices to the over-the-top delivery, fans were more confused than impressed. His Joker felt disconnected from the rest of the movie, like he had wandered in from a different film entirely. The character didn't get much screen time, which made it hard to build any real momentum. Instead of feeling dangerous or unpredictable, he just felt awkward. Fans expected something bold, but instead got something that felt like it was trying too hard to be edgy. When other Jokers came along and got glowing praise, Leto's version looked even more out of place. His time in the role became one of the most divisive parts of the entire franchise. Jesse Eisenberg. Jesse Eisenberg is a talented actor, but his version of Lex Luthor left a lot of people scratching their heads in disbelief. Instead of a cool and calculated villain, we got a version of Lex that felt manic, scattered, and oddly eccentric. He spoke in riddles, acted unpredictably, and lacked the kind of commanding presence people expect from one of Superman's most iconic foes. There was potential in trying something new, but it just didn't quite click the way it was intended. He felt more like a jittery tech startup villain than a cold genius mastermind, and it didn't help that his evil plan seemed more confusing than clever. The strange energy he brought didn't match the serious tone of the world around him, and fans noticed quickly. When people bring up casting missteps in the DCEU, his name almost always finds its way to the top of the list. Now, not every actor gets a starring role, but even the smaller parts in the DCEU sometimes leave fans frustrated. A few characters came and went without leaving any kind of impact, and others felt like they were just filling space. People like Slipknot, who appeared only to die, or Rick Flag, who never seemed to fully connect with audiences, ended up being more forgettable than anything else. But hey, it's not always the actor's fault. Sometimes the script, direction, or editing gets in the way. But in a universe with so many characters, only a few stood out. The rest, unfortunately, faded into the background or became easy targets for internet jokes. These performances weren't hated so much as ignored, but that still speaks volumes in a world where screen time is precious. At the end of the day, being cast in a DC movie is both a blessing and a risk. Fans care deeply about these characters, and that passion can lift an actor to massive popularity or push them into the storm. Some actors manage to ride that wave with style, while others never found their footing. And sometimes, even great performances got lost in the noise of everything else happening around them. The DCEU's legacy might be messy, full of highs and lows, But one thing's for sure, it gave people a lot to talk about. And no matter what comes next, fans will keep remembering the ones who flew highest, the ones who fell hard, and the ones who just kept fighting. And that brings us to the end of today's video. Which of these characters is your favorite? Leave your comments down below. Thank you for watching till the end, and we'll see you in our next episode.